I quit my high-paying nursing job after personally burning out and after the suicide of my coworker Brian. Yes, I know it's astounding. I left the nursing profession. I was making really high money for a nurse, $145,000 a year in California, and I gave it all up. I was making this much money at 24 years old. I had put about 7 years into the vocation, and I came to the point in my career where I couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't aligned, and so I put in my 2 weeks notice. Before we get into all of the reasoning for why I made a decision that many of you may think is drastic, why would you throw away all that money? I want to first explain why I got into the profession. I had no idea what I wanted to do in high school, preparing for college, and my mom sat me down one day and she said that I would make a great nurse, and I didn't really believe her. I still had the stereotype that it's a profession for women, and she told me to call my cousin who was going through a program. He was about to graduate, and so I gave him a call, and he told me a story of a patient he had who was a drug user. He had a stroke, and all the nurses during his clinicals basically wrote this patient off, and he was the only one that really cared for this person. This guy who had drug abuse and a lot of problems, but my cousin still saw him as a human being. He cleaned him up, spent like 4 hours cleaning out. His mouth had basically cemented with saliva because nobody was performing oral care. And my cousin told me about the look in this guy's eyes. He couldn't talk because of the stroke, but he could just see in his eyes that the man was telling him thank you. And when I heard that story, I said, let's go. I'm in. I'm going to become a nurse. I did not get great grades in high school. I had like a 3.3, not even trying. And when I got into college, I went balls to the wall and pretty much got a 4.0. I got a B in human sexuality. The teacher was bad. It wasn't because I don't know anything about the subject. Flash forward to my first job. I landed a position in a small ICU, and then after about 8 months, I transferred to a level 2 trauma center in the ICU. And I love the job. I really think the nursing profession has so much cool stuff about it. You get to spend time with people, sick people who want your help. You get to see people at their worst, at their best. You get to learn so much about the human body, the human condition. And then there's also the dark side of nursing, putting people into body bags, having to be there when a loved one is screaming because they just found out that their loved one died. A lot of dark stuff goes on in the profession as well. And this kind of dark stuff, I think, began to eat at me. There were probably a lot of other things that I had suppressed in my life. And I started to notice my skin condition that I had when I was a kid come back. It was eczema. And it got really bad to the point where I was losing all hope. And I had, for the first time in my life, become depressed. I was going to all these doctors, and they all told me for the rest of my life I would be living with this condition. And I didn't believe them, so I kept going to different forms of medicine, functional medicine, allergy specialists, all these things. And they couldn't really help me. And this is when I realized that a lot of disease, it's so much more complicated than what we currently know. And it took me going on my own healing journey, which I'll talk about later, to realize this. And as I started to look like a snake, my whole entire face was shedding, my arms, my chest, feeling terrible, going into work with no sleep, and trying to take care of these people when I felt like I needed to be the patient. It was really hard. There's a mosquito in my room. I was going to kill that guy. And then October 2019 rolls around, and I walk into work and hear the news that my coworker Brian had pressed self-delete. He exited the world on his own accord, and a lot of people in my work, we would all agree that Brian was not a happy person. He worked too much. He was definitely the textbook burnt out person, I would say. But it still hurts to lose somebody who signed up to give their time and energy to taking care of other people. And management holds a service for him. We all go there. We tell stories, and we go back into work, and nothing changed. The manager would ask questions to some people and say, "Oh, if you're thinking of doing anything like this, please let us know." But where was that before? And I know that events like this, you don't really expect them to happen, but there needs to be a change in the healthcare system and with mental health. This is a huge issue. Nurses and doctors have higher suicide rates than the general population. And when I saw the lack of change within the system, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't. Because I had already realized how much the system didn't align with my values already. I started to see I was working in a profession that most people get into because they want to help heal, and we weren't really healing anyone. Of course, the traumas that come in, we were healing those people, and already healthy people, we were healing them. But the people who had serious trauma, emotional trauma that they're holding on to, and they're really sick because they're holding on to all of that, we're just giving them Band-Aids. We're just giving them more medicine. Just medicine and more pills. And there's no prevention, none of that. And there was a huge conflict for me because I'm someone who's sick at this point. I have this chronic condition that everyone's telling me I have to live with for the rest of my life. And I was just done. And so I put in my 2 weeks notice. I spent some time selling everything, sold my Toyota Yaris, sold my carbon fiber road bike, things that were precious to me. I sold my IntelliBed. If you guys have ever tried an IntelliBed, those things are ridiculous. The best sleep I've ever got in my life. Sold it for a quarter of the price on Craigslist. Don't know why I'm still talking about this, but I decided to take a risk. And I had belief in myself that I could move abroad, which I've always wanted to do, and I could make it happen. I could make it work. So I moved abroad and I began my own healing journey. My hair was falling out. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And then COVID hit, quarantine happened, and I really went on a healing journey and reconnected with myself, understood myself more, invested tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and mentorship, and started this business, Healthcare Stress Relief, where I now help healthcare professionals navigate burnout. And I'm also opening up some spots for some nurses who are aspiring entrepreneurs and who want to go from the bedside to the beachside. So if that interests you, go ahead and click the link below. In my healing journey, was not easy at all. I did a lot of things. There was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of lost hope and a lot of pain. But I'm here to tell you, I'm living proof that you can do what you set out to do. I wanted to heal myself. I made some pretty hard decisions, and a year later, my skin is completely healed. Never felt better. And I have been able to make my dreams of becoming an entrepreneur true. And I know there are a lot of you in the healthcare system right now who are struggling and who are hurt in more ways than one, but mostly because the career you got into you thought was going to bring you a lot of fulfillment, and maybe it's not now. And from my own healing journey, I want to tell you that happiness has to come from within. Regardless of how hard your circumstances are now, you are in control of your emotions and how you feel. Now, we can talk about burnout and all of those symptoms and the high adrenaline and stress in nursing. That's why I started the programs and the courses that I have right now for nurses. But at the end of the day, you have choices. You can do whatever you want in this life. Obviously, there are some things that you can't just flick into air, and you can't become Michael Jordan. But we really are nearly limitless as human beings. And it all stems from belief. If you believe that you can change something, you can. And what I really learned about life and money after the death of Brian and going on my own spiritual journey and healing was that I just wish Brian had time to really enjoy himself. Because if he was living his life in a little bit more enjoyment, I think he would still be here. We have a choice here as human beings. We can sit here and we can suffer, or whatever our circumstances are, we can choose to enjoy them. And for some of us, that's going to take quitting the profession completely. For some of us, it's going to take just making some transitions and shifting some things around and learning some skill sets. Everyone is different, but everyone is also very similar. And I want you guys to know that the nursing profession, the healthcare profession in general, it can be a toxic environment. You guys already know this. There can be a lot of bullying, there can be a lot of cattiness, there can be a lot of coworkers who are supposed to be helping you who go and sit on the edge of the ICU and act like they can't hear you while you need help. Like that happened to me so many times. And it can be really draining. And the hardest part for me with healthcare was the fact that I felt that the administration didn't give a shit about us. I know it's different in each hospital, but at the end of the day, the hospital system is a business, and if you got into healthcare, you probably weren't thinking about just money. You were probably thinking about the changes you can make, and that's why I chose to go the road of entrepreneurship, because I felt that I could make a much bigger change, and I could make money while I'm sleeping. That's something that our society doesn't teach. It teaches you to go to school, stay in an institution. When you're a kid, like me, I'm surprised I didn't get put on ADHD medication. I think I kind of survived that little timeline. But kids are expected to just sit in desks, and then they sit in desks in university, and they have to pick what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And you better hope that it's going to bring you happiness, but they're not really preaching that. And then you get into a job and you're supposed to just make money until you retire. And in the wise words of my mentor, Jesse Elder, I don't plan to tire, let alone do it twice, retire. And I just want to end this video with telling you guys life is too short to put all of your chips and your energy and your precious time into working on a mission that's not even aligned with yours. If you are in healthcare right now and you can see or you believe that you are meant to do more than just wipe butts and give some collace, and you feel like you're not really making an impact, then it's time to go inside yourself and find out what your heart's really trying to tell you. And if you are in healthcare and you're enjoying it, then great, I'm happy for you. Awesome. But I know there's a mass exodus going on right now of people leaving. So if you need any help at all, if you need somebody to talk to, you are a nursing student worried, you are a nurse with 20 years experience and you're burnt out, hit up your boy, or I urge you to hit up anyone else who can help you. The worst thing you can do is sit in the pain and not take action. Action takers will always get the results. And remember how precious life is. It's too short to not do what you want. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, go ahead and check out this video over here, diving more into my story and what I've gone through. Thanks so much. Take care, Healthcare Squad.